And we will start the live. Okay, I will just upload it later, guys. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, so in the next paragraph, we see, thus the all-wise maker who creates the body in this way changes it every year as if it were clothes. For the body to be changed and for its continuous, a compound is necessary so that new particles appear that will work and fill the place of the parts that are dissolved. This one, I think it's also really nice because he takes something that we are always in contact with and we spend so much mental energy on, sustenance, right? Food, especially if you're a person who is maybe living alone and cooking for yourself or cooking for a family, or you're just interested in this, you are made to kind of come in contact with this process every day. And it's another instance of us being asked to be witnesses and to be to ponder what's going on. And everything that is being created and given to me, being offered to me in terms of sustenance, is perfectly attuned to the needs of my body in different stages, different seasons, right? So in the winter, like one of the examples that always stays with me is in the winter we don't get that much sunlight. It's cold. Our bodies have different needs. So what kind of fruits and vegetables are in season in the winter, right? Like citrus, which can provide some of those things or nutrition that our body requires more of in that time. Or looking at different kinds of foods and different kinds of sustenance, we say, oh, this is really good for you if you're trying to do this, or if your body is lacking this, or if you have a problem with this. And in that, there's just so much, so many subtle manifestations. So one, we see this abundance of choice of offerings and the wisdom in how they appear to us, how they are created, how they're sustained. And then what is going on when we eat something or when we drink something and it becomes a part of us, right? So this subtle matter, the sustenance, repairs the body through an orderly dominical law. The true provider allots and distributes this sustenance through a particular law in relation to the different needs of the body's members. So one thing that sometimes kids ask will be like, if I eat too many watermelon seeds, will watermelon grow in me? Or if I eat an apple seed, will an apple tree come out of my mouth or something? Or maybe if sometimes we talk this way, like when you eat too much of something, you say, oh, like it's like I'm made of popcorn, let's say. But beyond the joke part of it, right? Actually looking at the process, I'm eating all these different things made up of different materials and things coming from different sources. And in my body, there is a particular law, a dominical law that is very orderly, that breaks down whatever I ate and knows exactly where to send that and how it's going to actually continue the existence of my body, how it's going to be repairing it, right? So all of these things are things that I can witness every day. And I really just love that when you're looking at, okay, these two verses, one of them, seeing that he has created you in successive stages, say he will give them life who created them in the first instance. So when I think of resurrection, I usually think it's sometime in the long future, and it doesn't make sense to me. But the way he is bringing it into my life here is like, no, no, no. You're looking at these verses every day. You're being created in successive stages yesterday and today. We're giving you life today, right now. during breakfast this morning, during dinner this evening. Like we created you in the first instance, and we kept creating you. You were a baby. It was my birthday last week, so for that many years, I've been alive, right? And I've been created in successive stages, and it's still ongoing. So it's not something that's so far away from me. And I really like that it's just bringing it down to, you can think about this during breakfast. Your dinner can make you convinced of resurrection because you just need to think. Now consider the behavior of the subtle matter which the all-wise provider sends. You will see that while the matter's particles are dispersed through the air, soil, and water, like a caravan, they suddenly gather together in a way that suggests a deliberate action, as though they had suddenly received the order to move. They collect together in the most orderly fashion, as if each particle of them was entrusted with a duty and ordered to proceed to a specified place. Also, it is apparent from their conduct that they're being propelled through a particular law of one who acts and has choice. Oh no, sorry guys. And from the realm of the inanimate are entering the animal kingdom. Then they enter a body as sustenance through a particular rule, and with a determined order and in a regular process, and after being cooked in the 4 kitchens of the body, undergoing 4 amazing transformations, and being strained through 4 filters, they're apportioned through regular laws and the beneficence of the true provider according to the all different needs of the members, and are circulated to every part of the body. Again, I just love these, it just feels so accessible. When you're eating something, and just in eating and digesting that, this is what you can actually see, what you can actually witness. Something came together, right? A bunch of different things came together from the soil, a tree came out, and then on its branch, an apple, and you eat the apple, and in my body, when I eat it, it is, what's it called? It undergoes different filters after being cooked in 4 kitchens and apportioned through the regular laws. So it was in different places in the, let's say the minerals and everything, the sunshine, all of that. The causes that we see, the tree bears this fruit, an apple. Once it's in my body, it's broken down, and then it's put back into a different place, but it's perfect. Like if you ever have seen an assembly line, right? A bunch of people have to work there so that machines who are programmed to do just one thing don't mess up what they do. And if they do, someone has to fix it. So every day I'm eating a bunch of different things, drinking my water, and everything knows the right place to go. You know, they don't end up in the wrong place. When I eat an apple, as it doesn't stay an apple and just show up as an apple on my skin, right? It turns into skin cells for Nirvana. It turns into nutrition for Nirvana. It turns into energy for Nirvana. It doesn't harm me. It doesn't disobey, this regular law, this amazing transformation that it's undergoing. Thus, whichever of these particles you consider with the eye of wisdom, you will see that blind chance, lawless coincidence, deaf nature, and unconscious causes can in no way interfere with it. It is impelled in a discerning, orderly, hearing, and knowing fashion. For whichever stage each of them enters from the surrounding elements to the body cells, it acts as though voluntarily through the specified laws of that stage. It enters it in an orderly fashion. To whichever level it journeys, it steps with such order that it appears self-evidently to be proceeding at the command of an all-wise mover. In this way, it gradually advances from stage to stage and level to level until, at the command of its sustainer, without deviating from its aim and object, it reaches its appropriate position. For example, the pupil of Tevfik's eye, where it establishes itself and works. Tevfik is one of Imam Nursi's students. So he's writing about, right? So we know that, or we hear things, or the most common thing, right? You clip your nails and a few days later, there's more nails. You have to clip them again, or your hair, it grows. So how is it that the sustenance that you're eating knows exactly where to go, knows exactly how it's going to manifest in your body, and it's never getting confused? So we're asking ourselves, can blind chance, lawless coincidence, deaf nature, and unconscious causes, can these be the reason that I am operating this way, let's say? This situation, that is the manifestation of dominicality and sustenance, demonstrates that first the particles were determined. They were appointed to the task. They were designated to those positions. It is as if the existence of an arrangement and order, like this will be the sustenance of so-and-so cells, being written on the forehead of each of them, points to each person's sustenance being written on his forehead by the pen of divine determining, and his name being written on his sustenance. Is it at all possible that the all-glorious Maker, who nurtures and sustains with boundless power and all-encompassing wisdom, who has absolute disposal over all beings, from minute particles to the planets, and spins them with order and balance, should not bring about the last creation, or that he should be unable to do so? Thus, many verses of the Quran present to man's view this wise last creation, which will take place at the resurrection of the dead and great gathering. It removes doubt and uncertainty. It says, say, he will give them life who created them in the first instance. That is, the one who created you from nothing in so wise a form is he who will bring you to life again in the hereafter. And it says, and it is he who begins the process of creation, then repeats it, and for him it is most easy. That is, your return and being raised to life at the resurrection is easier and more trouble-free than your creation in this world. Just as it is easier and more trouble-free for the soldiers of a regiment who have dispersed to regather under the regimental flag at the sound of a bugle than forming a new regiment from scratch. So according to reason, it is easier and more possible than the first creation for the fundamental particles of a body, which are intermingled and familiar and connected with one another, to regather at the trumpet blast of the angel Israfil, peace be upon him, and reply to the all-glorious Creator's command with, "Here we are, O Lord." Anyway, perhaps it is not necessary for all the particles to regather. The fundamental parts and essential particles, which are like nuclei and seeds, and are called the root of the tail, in a hadith, may be sufficient as the basis of the second creation. The all-wise Creator may construct the human body on them. Okay. Should I keep reading, or do you guys want to? Okay, let's stop there. Any questions, comments, or anything you guys would like to share? I mean, this is, Is this something you've thought about before? Or if you're thinking about it for the first time, is it convincing to you to look at your body, to look at your sustenance, and to connect it with these verses in a way that convinces your heart of the reality of resurrection?
I think the explanation that it is easier to bring us back than to create us has nothing to do with the physicality of this part of us is going to be here and then it, God will add to it. I just think that God is saying, this is something that I will do with such ease. Like, I don't think the physicality part is what makes it easy. I just think that God is reminding us it is far much easier than you think.
Jazakallah khair, Alia. Yeah, I feel like I got that as well from that part of it. If we can go back to the beginning, I really just want, I was so moved by, really humbled, by the intense, really like awe-inspiring power, will, perfection that Imam Nursi spelled out in the first few paragraphs that is taking place right now in my body. And the fact that he's putting it into words means that he's witnessed it and he's become aware. Especially the next page, I think it was. So can you scroll up just a little bit, Nurbanu? Right, like the way that we're interacting with food throughout the day, food, water, whatever you're drinking, whatever you're eating, it's it's entering the body. So look how he breaks it little, but like step by step, but it enters the body as a sustenance. And I was going to ask Dr. Yamina about the language. I guess I was particularly moved by the language he was using. So dominicality and sustenance. Maybe it's a risk. Through a particular rule with a determined order and in a regular process. This is just how it's entering the body. There's a rule. It's, first of all, it's a gift. It comes through a particular rule. So you're putting the food in your mouth. Guess what the rule is? All of a sudden your mouth starts working automatic. Has nothing to do with you.
You also have to put it in your mouth. You can't just slather it on your forehead, right? Like, there's a way and there's a rule to it.
And just the noble workers that are out here in the body, in the 4 kitchens, amazing transformations, doing their thing. When you said assembly line, like this is a lot happening with perfection, workers that are not slacking on the job. Like this is a perfect order. Like, oh, so someone is ordering these workers in my body in the 4 kitchens. So I wasn't really sure about the 4 kitchens, the 4 amazing transformations. I'm sure it's probably physiological, it seems.
Yeah.
And being strained through 4 filters. So again, it's like, these are all the different, look.
You know, the breakdown of food starts in our mouths, right? So that's why they recommend chewing more. Because as we chew more, as our taste buds get the kind of food we're eating, and our saliva is released and certain enzymes are released, and our teeth are made to actually crush the food, and our brain is sending signals so that our stomach is getting ready to receive the certain kind of food that we're eating, right? So, and it goes down to your stomach, and then it goes through your intestines, and at each part, they are taking different things out of it. They are breaking it down. They're looking at what you're eating, right? Like, what can we do with this part of it? What can we do with this part of it? When you take like a elementary school science class, and they are teaching you like how to eat healthy food, and it says, well, you know, everything you eat has these ingredients, and this is where it goes in your body. The fat is stored here because it does this. The protein is stored here because it does this. If you want to build muscle, you got to eat more protein, right? And if you are kind of in a stressed environment, your body stores more fat. Why? Because that's more durable. It's not going to burn through it. It's like, you know, for bad days or for tough times. So there are all these things that it feels kind of like, what is this, like a science class? But why, like, could it happen just by itself? Right? This is the next sentence. So he's saying, cooked in 4 kitchens, amazing transformations, strained through 4 filters. And then, okay, can it be blind chance? Let's say it happened the first time you ate. Can it keep happening with the same success every time you eat? Can it happen for every person who eats, every mammal who eats, every bacteria who eats, right? Because the dominicality, right? The way I understand it is that risk, that sustenance, it's being manifested in every living thing in this way. He's not only taking care of me, he's taking care of Sarah, he's taking care of everyone here. He's been doing it for years and years. He's doing it for the fish we don't see under the ocean. And all of them also have these particular rules, the way they eat, the way they digest, the way they filter what they eat. I can't eat bugs, right? But my family has chicks and they're eating, you know, ticks and ants. Why can't they? What is their body getting and my body can't get from it? So there are all these things. Why is there that order? And why is it continuing? Maybe it like if you say it was a coincidence, it was chance, okay, maybe it could happen once. But it happens every day, every moment, still happening. So it's crazy. Go ahead, Ali.
So it's not just the digestion, it is the protection, because our digestive system and our airway share the same pathway. And there are incredible amounts of protection that are taking place even when the food starts approaching you. Your protective mechanisms start kicking into place. As it's put in your mouth, protective mechanisms from it coming into your nose put in your place. As it's proceeding, protecting mechanisms to prevent it from slipping down earlier. Then the larynx gets protected by being moved up and forward and covered, and like so many protective mechanisms that we measure the difference between the triggering of each protective mechanism and the other one by milliseconds, and any like minute change disturbs the whole thing. So just to bring angels into the picture, the reminder you gave us at the beginning, then I can see each of those like protective mechanisms as an angel working for me. Like whether, the angels that are making, moving my larynx up and forward, the angels that are pulling my tongue back, the angels that are, closing the pathway between my nose and my mouth, getting my uvula and soft palate up. The angels that are, getting the saliva to work, the angels that are getting this. So all of these are like zillions of angels put to work, and all in response to my desire to eat. So if my desire to eat is my dua, then the istijaba of the dua is Allah putting zillions of angels to make this desire happen in the most pleasant and the most protected way. And yes, it happens all the time the same way. And we forget how protected and blessed we are until one thing goes wrong, whether we shock while talking, or we get sick, or we age, and then things don't happen the same way, and only then do we notice. But subhanallah, if we just focus on that, on what comes to us as risk that is appointed to us, and as we're eating, all of the zillions of angels that are put to our service, like even just not even eating, just swallowing, just like your saliva, like, a sip of water, that will be enough to be grateful. Alhamdulillah.
I just want to add one thing, and then inshallah we call Dr. Yamina to inshallah help us kind of get more of the loaded gems in the text. Somebody was asking today, like, how can we just accept what's happening and surrender to it? It's so chaotic. It's so out of control. Like, it's just so horrible. How do we really make peace with it? And the only response I can share with that person based on everything that we've been doing in Halaqah is like, this takes devoted, dedicated weekly Quran study. Because we're developing a relationship with somebody and getting to know this being directly through how this being operates in me, with me, in everything. And then the more you build a friendship with somebody and the more you get to know them, and the more consistent you see how they show up in your life, the more you trust them. So I've known Nur Banu for a very long time, mashallah, from Halaqah. So it's because of that, repeated interaction that I can say, mashallah, she's solid, hands down. We can definitely do this halaqah together for sure, no problem. Because there's an established relationship. So if somebody tomorrow tells me like, how could Nur Banu do it? I'm like, hold up. I reject, because I know Nur Banu. Like, there's no way. So the question is just, it's without any foundation. Look. And the Quran is constantly saying, look at how I am operating. Look, with this perfection. The power is the perfection is 100% awe-inspiring. If you look at one organ, if you look at one, it's an absolute mind-blowing miracle, one thing. So Nursi is taking us through one thing and another thing and another thing. And the whole, and this is just one of his books, The Words, that we've been studying with Dr. Yamina for a very long time now. One little thing in one paragraph, in one word, and look at how many words there are in this chapters, to really establish a solid relationship with how this being operates. So when somebody then makes a claim like, oh, what a horrible, timeout, pause. I don't know who you're talking about, but we must not be talking about the same person. Stuff about the same being. So yes, Dr. Yamina, please, if you can share anything, inshallah, that comes.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for all your sharings. So at the beginning, Nurbanu, sorry, reminded us that in this 29th word, it's about immortality of the ruh, the spirit, and the angels, malaika, and the resurrection after death. And in the first aim, we read about the existence of the angels, how to believe in the angels, and how we need to affirm the belief in the angels as a pillar of Iman. It is a pillar of Iman. And the more we read, the more we understood how, without conscious affirmation of belief in the angels, our belief in God is also incomplete. And in the second aim, which is where we're now, is about the resurrection of the dead, the end of the world, and the life of the hereafter. So there was an introduction and 4 fundamental points. So just we know that we are quite over the middle of this. We read more than half of this word, I think. And this is the second fundamental point, and it's about how eternal happiness is necessary. And we read about it, and Sarah mentioned it, and how God, the creator, Allah, is capable of giving that happiness. So we need to affirm and confirm this here and now. And also the destruction of the universe, everything will die, the death of the world. Not only they are possible, but they will occur with certainty. We need to have this yaqeen, this certainty. So the first, he always goes with it's possible, and then it's more than just possible, because as we've read today in the 10th point, the way to he is like taking us through the process of observing the creation. Actually, he's teaching us every time we read Imam Nursi's tafsir, we go through the process of learning how to read the ayat from one perspective. So here we learned how to read the ayats from one aspect. And so through that, and when we are reading the ayat, now we can affirm and confirm, yes, make tasdeeq, this is true. We make shahada. This is conscious shahada. Shahada is not only a word. When we say the words are there supposed to remind us of the reality of the shahada, what we have witnessed, what we have lived, what we have experienced here, now, all the time, always in the world, when we are living as a conscious abd, as a created worshipper, conscious worshipper, or at least as, let's say, as a student of the Quran. So when we do that, the way he's teaching us to do that, when we perform the shahada, we not only realize that it is possible, but we start seeing that it is more than possible, because from the created, we are taken, as we are taught in the Quran, to the creator. And that's what an ayah is, talking about God, making God known to us. with his eternal beautiful names. So once we get to the beautiful names, now it is not a matter of it's possible, a matter of it's happening here and now. It's a matter of it's happening. It happens all the time. Not only it can happen, but if Allah says it happens, then that's it. We have no reason to doubt and all the reasons to confirm the reality of those ayat. The verse I'm talking about now, the verses of the Quran. So what's here, he's taking one example. So when he's talking about the food entering the body, this is one, he's giving us one example. You can add another example, like Aliyah said, the protection. You can add more and more, but beware, especially those who are have lots of information because it's, for instance, their job. They know a lot about the body, or some people know a lot about matters or about plants or about anything. The point is not how much information we have. The point is how to process that information so it takes us to the Malakut, to the angelic world, where we will witness the glorifications and the witnessing of the angels that witness and glorify God with his beautiful names. This is the most important step in Tawheed, the most important step in Iman, in conscious, how do you say, true Tawheed that is based on conscious Shahada, witnessing. Then, once we are familiar with this process, and once we start living from that process, we start living from that perception of the universe, because this is not an intellectual process. I will come back to it. It's a process that will transform us. And when we start living from that new transformed us, then any information that comes in will be enlightened and will become ma'rifah, will become knowledge of God. Otherwise, if we are too impatient, and instead of dwelling and lingering on the process, and we go to the information, then we miss the most important point, the key, that the thing that will transform any information into light of Iman. Because to be a mu'min, it has nothing to do with how much information you have. You can have 10 PhDs and have no Iman. You can know not much, but you have full Iman. If we learn the process that we are taught in the Quran, and that is being explained and step by step in these writings, then when we get more information, we get even more enlightened. Our Iman increases. We have more itmi'nan, more peace. So what he's talking about here, the example is not important, but since he is giving, it's something that is easy to ponder and reflect on, and it's something that is amazing. So as Nurbanu was sharing from the beginning, like this food, even if we don't know that there are 4 kitchens, 4 organs that are acting like this, or 4 filters like the kidneys and the liver and this. We don't need to know all that. Just there is food out there. And forget about, I'm not even going into, because there are layers and layers, I'm saying. Once we start pondering, there are so many steps to ponder. So I'm not going to the before eating, the fact that that food appeals to me. What makes it appealing? The smell, the color, the look, everything. I am created with the need for food. I'm not going into that either. Just the physical instance of taking a matter, physical thing out there, putting it in our mouth. And as Nurbanu said, we don't put it somewhere else. We all know, we're taught from the fitra, there is an order, there is wisdom, and we are taught that. The child will put it, the baby will put it directly in his mouth. So it goes to the mouth and then stop, pause, and observe. Shahada will start now. Stop. Let's not go into analyzing. For instance, if you are a biologist or a medical doctor or something, and you know where it's going and think, don't go there. That's not the time. And you can do this for every step in that process. But the point is not, is it going into the stomach first or into this first? Is the liver? That in itself, if you know that and you've been trained in this way, it will add to your, how do you say? Let's call it enlightenment. But it's, if you don't know that, you are not missing, because what everyone is witnessing is already enough. From one perspective, we can see how more knowledge does not, how do you say, there is no, not challenge, how do you say, when two things don't go together.
Contradiction, Dr. Yamina, or discrepancy?
Maybe.
Okay.
I was thinking of another word, but thank you. I'll call it contradiction. Thank you. So it does not contradict anything in what we are learning in the Quran, from the Quran. Just so this is a part, like between brackets. It's the opposite. The more you know, for instance, if you're a scientist or something, the more your belief in God is potentially can increase and be more grounded. The whole thing is not about how much you know, is how to process what we know. So here, once we stop analyzing, because it's not the time to analyze now. Analyzing is when you are thinking for the next step. But now we just put the food in our mouth, and let's say more or less, we all know that it's going and it's becoming part of me. Not only is becoming part of me, but some will become eye cells and it will see. The other one will become hair, will become nail. So it's the same matter, but with totally different duties or functions. They all function differently, they become different things. So that, and Sarah repeated that, because that's a very important place where he says that all this matters particles, they are all matter. They are dispersed through the air, the soil, the water, like a caravan. They suddenly gather together in a way that suggests a deliberate action. We can feel it. Now we stop there and we are just staying. We stop analyzing, we stop thinking, and we are just watching with amazement, because it does make us amazed, but we don't stay in long enough with the amazement. We need to linger, stay in that amazement, the amazement of these things, matter that looks unconscious to us, and then it's all acting deliberately, as though they had suddenly received the order to move. They collect together in the most orderly fashion, as if each particle of them was entrusted with a duty and order to proceed to a specified place. Just stay there, and you will feel, subhanallah, mashallah, tabarakallah, what is going on? You feel like going to sajda, go to sajda, stay in sajda, stay with that feeling. Then you will come to someone is communicating with me through these things, and these things are not unconscious. They are exhibiting some kind of consciousness. Let's call it malakut. And they are speaking to me. They are telling me, like, as if they are attracting my attention, attracting my heart, my ruh. Look, this is, pay attention, something extraordinary, something beyond our, something that we cannot fathom with our limited intellect is happening here right now, and I'm witnessing it. Witnessing is not only observing, I'm living it, I'm feeling it. Stay with that feeling. You will feel, then you can say, yes, the angel, you will start feeling the angel. Yes, everywhere the angels, and they were, as we are told in the Quran, they were ordered to prostrate to Adam, to a human being. And they are in prostration. They are totally serving this human body or the creation. Subhanallah. Then that's the most important. That's where the breakthrough will happen. We will witness the miracle of and then the more we do this for food, if you know more about food, as Alia was sharing, there is protection, there is this, but I suggest that don't go to the next topic until you become truly proficient at being present with one thing. And then it will come application. It won't be an application anymore. It will be the way we live. So anything we learn newly or we knew will be revisited with our new way of being, new perception, and new perspective of everything. Everything will start speaking to us. We start communicating with everything. And then we start witnessing and glorifying by means of all that we are experiencing. That's when we say witnessing, it's La ilaha illallah means La ilaha, La razzaqa illallah, La mu'ina illallah. All the names of God are included in the term Allah. Once we start living from this new way of being, then if there is, or when there is always, this is the worldly, we're not in paradise. In worldly life, whether in our personal life or around us, when something seemingly chaotic is happening, it is chaotic because it is beyond our control, beyond, there are too many things happening that we don't know. So of course it will feel chaotic. We will have the perspective, a perspective that this is not only limited in time and space, but also from the perspective of beyond time and space. Because time and space is limited to the now, to the here and now. It is in when we are not living from the heart and the soul that we have the illusion that the past and the future are all expanded as if now, and as if this worldly life is all there is. But once we are grounded in the Malakut, grounded in the communication with the unseen, then this worldly life is only the now. It is a tiny little slice. So, and that chaotic thing that we are seeing in that tiny slice, it is only a point in that tiny slice. So it is not overwhelming. It does not mean that there will be no sadness. Again, each time I have to say this because it may be misunderstood, but the sadness won't be, I am sad and I'm drowned in sadness. I'm angry, I'm drowned in anger. No, sadness came to me. It is an angelic message. Time for prayer. Prayer with action, prayer with words, prayer with whatever you can do. Time for doing something. So they are all, but at the same time, I am not in despair because I know that the one in control of every cell of my body is the one who is in control of every cell of every human body. So another human can't be a Rabb that I fear, can't be what if some people do this and that. They cannot do anything without divine will. So I am always trusting and seeking help from the source and not from everything else. And the ayat here, you can see how, and I think Nurban also, قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Here he's talking from the perspective, it's always in the Quran, Allah is talking, it's tanazzul. Talking to us from God's perspective to create one atom, create the whole world, of course it's the same. Kun fayakun. But from our perspective, especially from the perspective of the one who is questioning the creation, it means someone who is thinking horizontally, who is not aware of Malakut. It seems like, how come after we are totally disintegrated, how can we be created again? This is what the intellect says when it is not enlightened by the heart and the soul. When it is thinking with the limited ego. The answer is قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. To us, doesn't it seem like if I make something, then the second time is easier? So he's speaking to me, and also the God here is taking my attention to the first creation. And when I go and actually start finding out my creation now, or the creation of a baby, then the next ayah come, وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَطْوَارًا, how he creates you in successive stages, then we won't be able to ask this question anymore. Because now we can witness the all-comprehensive power of the Creator. So now we learn to be less arrogant. We start learning what our position is, what it means that we are being created right now, what it means to be that we are being sustained now, right now. And so when we ask questions about, for instance, there is something chaotic happening now, there is something arrogant happening there. Arrogant in the sense of it shouldn't be happening. What's going on now? Like, I don't like it. Allah, how come you give permission to something like this to happen? All these assumptions are underlying our questions and our statements, and we are not even aware of it because we are not consciously aware of what it means to be sustained and created here and now. And if I am created here and now, everyone else is. So however sad I am, however angry I am, that anger, that sadness cannot be directed against God, but I know that it is my Creator who is making me dislike this. So now it's time to listen. So what shall I do with this? What is the message in this? But if I have never learned to unpack, let's say, to listen to the creation speaking to me, I wouldn't know what it means. It would feel like it is me who is angry, and now I'm looking for something to be angry at, or someone to be angry at, for instance. So one name of God, he says, and then وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. So your Rabb, your sustainer, is never unjust to his worshippers, to his creation. But it feels like, sometimes it feels like injustice. If we go through the Shahada and affirm and see how the angels are serving us, how we are being sustained here and now. Every cell is sustained through endless laws and orders, and then we are much more humble and more conscious of, humble from our perspective, and more at awe of all the order, the wisdom, and we realize that the wisdom and the knowledge and the meaning of everything is well beyond us. And we know إِلَّا مَا عَلَّمْتَنَا, only however much Allah reveals to us. So we don't pretend like we know, and we see a little piece in the picture, and we say, I don't like it. But just a second, this is only a piece. You don't see the whole thing. You don't see it in time, not only in time and space, but in akhirah dimension as well. So it's multi-dimensional. So that's why I'm talking about humility here. We start asking different questions, and justice, adl. Imam Nursi has some treatises about different names of God, and one of them is adl. And adl there, adala, justice, starts with the balance in the universe. For instance, if you have, I'm making it up now, a bird, you know this bird lives in the sea because the bird has a long beak and long legs or something to swim with. You see the adala, that being, that bird lives in the sea and it's being equipped with everything to make its life easy, and it's catching its risk easy for it. And so it is with ourselves, like he gives us what we didn't know we needed. All these things we're talking about, for instance, how the food enters and all what it does, we're not even aware most of the time. We don't know that we need all these things, and they are given. So he gives us what we don't even know we need. So how can we assume that he's not just because there is something that I don't understand or that seems off? And it may be off, but who makes me realize that it's off? It's him. It's not to be used against him. So adala is balance. And this balance is not complete without akhirah. And because we live in a life that akhirah, the dimension, the most important dimension of the believer, the unseen that looks to akhirah, we don't live with the certainty, with the yaqeen of akhirah, then our interpretation, perception of things is all upside down. For instance, upside down in the sense of, if I have some money in my pocket, giving to someone in need will seem like less money in my pocket. But with yaqeen of akhirah, first, it's not in my pocket. My pocket is just a small, like it's coming from an infinite source. The pocket is just a manifestation in this worldly life. And the more you give, the more you will realize that you give, and it's again, something comes in the pocket. You give, something else comes. You see this in plants. If you have beans or something, the more you pick, the more next day you have more. If you stop picking, then they stop, the plant starts seeding. That's it. There's no new food. But the more you share, the more you give, the more there is. And this law, the law of givenness, is an indication or an evidence to the infinite source. But when I feel that it's from me, then it seems like it's limited. And the more I give, the less I have. If I live in the presence of my maker, sustainer, who's sustaining me now, whatever is in my hand, in my pocket, is being given to me. You give some, Ayah says, we will give you more. And lo and behold, you find that you always have something. Where is it coming from? But we don't ask, because they say, I worked, it came from there. Well, sometimes you don't work and it came. And even when I work, what am I doing when I'm working? I'm using all the capital that is being given to me and sustained here and now. So we live in delusion most of the time, and we make our life harder. We make ourselves, we want to carry a burden that we are not created to carry. And because we care, we are created to care about everyone and everything, not only close to us, but anything we hear in the world. Yet with this potential, if there is no all merciful, all powerful, all knowing one, then all that compassion and that love and that care becomes a burden that can totally crush us. And وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. I'm doing it to myself. It doesn't mean that there is no hardship, but hardship is meaningful. It is not meaningless. So it's not the first time I'm reading this, but each time I think of all the miracles happening here and now, I just feel like I don't want to read anymore. Just pause and stay and, bask in this. Just so beautiful. Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Ahsan al-Khaliqin.
And also endless istighfar for everything you just said about judging and being completely oblivious. We talked about this with the angels, like we're so completely oblivious, so astaghfir, and like this makes me aware, a little bit aware of how completely oblivious I am to everything he's doing perfectly. And then I have the nerve to sit here and judge anything when I have missed 250 million signs right now with this drink of coffee, with this dinner of utter power, perfection, love, care. Yani. So as we bask in the awe and gratitude of being able to just receive just the presence, really, it's receiving the real presence happening right now, of this wonderful being, wondrous way of working without, and Dr. Yamini said something so beautiful, like he's doing all of this and giving me the 4 kitchens, the 4 filters, the perfect rules to make sure it goes in and smells good and it like feels right and is exciting, and then makes all of the workers, and then all is giving me the things that we didn't even know that we needed. So I didn't even ask for or have clueless that I need to filter anything or everything needs to go in. And then I have the nerve to look at something happening, be like, how could this like, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And what we said about the angels, what Dr. Yamina mentioned about the angels is like, alhamdulillah, that there are beings whose sole purpose of existence is to be, is constantly praising and glorifying and doing with perfection, like praising the names of God endlessly. And so when we become a little bit aware, for example, of like we talked about just eating something, and I know I'm not aware of the 4 kitchens or the 4 filters or the billions and millions of trillions of processes, but now that I'm just a little bit aware of that perfection that happens at one sip or one bite, I can say to the level of, and Dr. Yamina said, like just to the level of their praise and perfection, I agree, I give that, I want to present that, I want to present that awareness to however much they're doing everything. I join them, even though I'm clueless about like, can I just copy paste in their praise? Because I don't know exactly how many there are and how many perfections it is, but subhanallah bihamdihi bi'adada khalqihi, like to the amount of perfection in that existence, I say subhanallah bihamdihi to that. And to the number of creation, I say astaghfirullah too, because I just have had no idea how much and everything you said about how we judge. So first of all, we don't like something. And again, this is me who's been in halakha for over a decade. The first thing I do is I think that I'm the one who doesn't like it. So it's just you've completely lost sight that it's not your feeling. Somebody made you not like this. That's just how you're made. So communicate with that being so that you can praise that being who's communicating with you instead of judging and blaming and rejecting and setting yourself off in a very painful tangent. So Jazakallah khair, that was super helpful. Nurbanu, do we have time to pause for comments, questions? I think I saw Ziba's hand raised at some point.
Yeah, let's Ziba, if you'd like to add anything, please. I know it's been a while since you raised your hand, but I also know she commented that she was gonna go pray, so I don't know if she's back yet. If not, we are aware that Maghrib comes in, at least for us in the East Coast, while we're having the halakha, so we really want to respect everyone's time, and we don't want to be late to prayer, inshallah. So if there are no questions, I think we can finish up.
Does anybody want to add any comments or questions? Because I know we didn't really present that, and I just want to offer everyone time.
I think I will just quickly say this, that Jazakallah khair, I think our passages are so essential for us to have a sense of tadabbur. And whenever I'm looking at any of the examples that anybody is giving, Sarah, especially you and Nurbanu and Sister Ziba and everyone, Sister Isra, I realize that, especially with me with stage 4 cancer, I realize that food in and of itself is such a big blessing, and at the same time I have to be careful with it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows my body to adjust when I am careful. So when you were saying that we get all kinds of reminders along the way, that you can fully sense the food, you can fully digest the food, you can fully taste it and enjoy it and find sense of gratitude for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has also prepared our body to um, accept restricted diet when somebody is ill. And I think that for me makes me appreciate food in a different way, that food is nourishment, yes, and at the same time, I have to be careful about foods that I have. That doesn't mean that they are limiting or limited for others whose body is healthy, whose functions are normal, who is able to digest properly. So again, the signs are in all, like kulli hal kind of situation. In all situations, there are signs. And if with all of that signage, we are dissatisfied and we are ungrateful, then like you just said, Sarah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. And I've become much more aware of this when I look at Gaza. Any morsel of any bite of food that I am having, at least, and I know most of us are feeling like that for the past few months with Congo, with other countries, with wherever there is oppression and persecution, that we feel unwantingly to blame, that we know that we have enough blessings of food, and yet we cannot provide or bring it to them who are suffering, even though their land had grown food and they had livestock and they had 100 years old olive trees and dates and all. But then too, there is sign that Allah says many times in Quran, to whom I want to give, I will bless more, and to whom I want to try with hunger and fear and death and losses, I will. So again, like Dr. Yamina always reminds us that the ayat are super imposed on each other in terms of bringing the reminders together from different angles. Quran is such a extrapolatable, for lack of a better word in my mind right now, that is, if you're looking at the topology and different sub-networks are there to make a point, but yet you can always bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the main parent. Parent in the sense that, in an abstract sense, the topmost hierarchy. And but then what does it do to us from a physical perspective? How grateful we become emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, because our human faculties and animal faculties are there. both from a physical angle and also from a spiritual, psychological, emotional angle, we are able to, inshallah, fully absorb the blessings and be grateful for what we have and then be able to give it to others, inshallah. And Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah, Saira, for sharing. Thank you. May Allah give you shifa, spiritually and physically, inshallah. Okay, I think we can stop here. And we'll continue with the rest of the 10th point next week, God willing. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. آخر دعواكم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. صلوات.